The opening session of the International Tribunal on Haiti is hereby called to order. My name is Benjamin Dupuy. I am the presiding judge and will be assisted by Lucie Tondreau and Lionel Jean-Baptiste. Today's session is the first of several sessions of the tribunal that will be conducted over the next 7 months. The tribunal has two main purposes. First, it will investigate reports of human rights violations in Haiti, with particular attention to individual responsibility for those violations under international law. To this end, the tribunal will examine current reports of killing, torture, illegal detention, and other serious violations of international human rights, as well as the events leading to the overthrow of Haiti's elected government in February 2004. The International Tribunal for Haiti's second purpose is to develop a case file that will be referred to the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court in The Hague. The tribunal will be assisted in its work by a Blue Ribbon Commission of Inquiry led by former U.S. Attorney General Ramsey Clark. The Commission will be empowered to conduct all necessary investigations, including visits to Haiti and interviews with witnesses and victims in Haiti, the U.S., and other countries. The tribunal will convene additional sessions throughout the United States and, if possible, in Haiti. All the sessions will present eyewitnesses and expert testimony, which will be collected in the case file. Now I will call on Assistant Judge Lionel Jean-Baptiste to explain today's session.
This evening, we will present the indictment of the defendants as well as several reports from eyewitnesses and expert witnesses. As with the United Nations International Tribunals, our procedure is a combination of continental and Anglo-American legal traditions. Tonight's session may have some procedures that are unfamiliar to the American judicial system. Most of them borrowed from the continental justice system used in Haiti, France, and other countries. The rules of evidence will be less stringent, leaving it to the fact finders, the jury, to weigh the value of hearsay evidence. And judges will ask questions if necessary to clarify witness statements. The evidence presented this evening will include documentary evidence such as human rights reports and film footage, and as well there will be oral testimony. As it is the tradition in any court, the session will be presided by the judges. The prosecuting team will present the indictment and the case against those indicted, and a jury will make the ultimate determination of fact. Before the case is submitted to the jury, the investigating judge will ask the court to refer individual cases to the Commission of Inquiry in two situations. One, if the evidence presented indicates that a person who was not originally named in the indictment is responsible for human rights violations within the purview of the court. And two, if in This matter will also be referred to the Commission of Inquiry if we have people named in the indictment that the investigating magistrate believes have sufficient information against them, sufficient evidence to submit the case to the jury. Thank you.
Now I will call on Assistant Judge Lucy Tondreau to explain the basis for proceedings.
The foundation for this evening's session is the Tribunal's indictment prepared by the prosecutors based on information provided by the investigating magistrates. The indictment presents the general outline of the case and named the defendants. The defendants have all been notified and invited to appear in this evening with legal counsel. The investigating magistrate is Mr. Brian Concannon. The case will be presented by the prosecution team, including Desiree Wayne, Kim Ives, and Ray Laforêt.
The International Tribunal on Haiti. Our defendants are Mario Andresal, Lieutenant Colonel Carlos Perez Aquino, Paul Arsalan, Jean-Pierre Baptiste, Inspector Berthenise Bazil, Superintendent David Charles Beard, Louis Jodel Champlain, Leon Charles, Brigadier General Ronald Coleman, Major Mike Collins, Winter Etienne, Jean-Marie Cudino, Officer Rene Leclerc, Major General Edgardo Lugani, Colonel Barry J. McLeod, Colonel Jacques Moreau, Staff Sergeant R. Graham Muir, Lieutenant General Augusto Eleno Ribeiro Pereira, Guy Philippe, Juan Gabriel Valdez, Gregoire Verdun. The individuals named herein are charged with violating the Penal Code of Haiti, laws regulating the Haitian National Police, and the Constitution of the Republic of Haiti.
Violating the American Convention on Human Rights, American Declaration of the Rights and Duties of Man, the Inter-American Democratic Charter, the treaty establishing the Caribbean Community, and the 1949 Geneva Protocols, especially Common Article 3 and 1977 Additional Protocol 2.
Other serious violations of the laws and customs applicable in internal armed conflict and international armed conflict within the established framework of international law, namely, intentionally directing attacks against the civilian population as such, or against individual civilians not taking direct part in hostilities, intentionally launching an attack with the knowledge that such attack will cause incidental loss of life or injury to civilians, attacking villages, dwellings, and buildings which are undefended and which are not military objectives.
Crimes against humanity committed as part of a widespread and systematic attack directed against the civilian population with knowledge of the attack, specifically murder, extermination, imprisonment or other severe deprivation of physical liberty in violation of fundamental rules of international law, torture, rape or any form of sexual violence, persecution of any identifiable group or collectivity on political, racial, national, ethnic, cultural, religious, gender, or other grounds that are universally recognized as impermissible under international law in connection with any act referred to in this paragraph. Enforced disappearance of persons, and other inhumane acts of a similar character intentionally causing great suffering or serious injury to body or to mental or physical health.
2. Criminal responsibility. Each of the accused, named and unnamed, is charged individually for the crimes alleged in this indictment and should be held individually responsible and liable for punishment if that person with intent and knowledge, inasmuch as any defendant named or unnamed is a military commander or person effectively acting as a military commander, that person shall be criminally responsible for crimes alleged if committed by forces under his or her effective command and control, or effective authority and control, as the case may be, as a result of his or her failure to exercise control over such forces where A, the military commander or person either knew or owing to circumstances at the time should have known that the forces were committing or about to commit such crimes, and B, the military commander or person failed to take all necessary and reasonable measures within his or her power to prevent or repress their commission or to submit the matter to the competent authorities for investigation and prosecution.
With respect, number 2, with respect to superiors and subordinate relationships, the superior shall be criminally responsible for crimes committed by subordinates under his or her effective authority and control as a result of his or her failure to exercise control properly over such subordinates. Where 3, the superior either knew or consciously disregarded information which clearly indicated that the subordinates were committing or about to commit such crimes. 4, the crimes concerned activities that were within the effective responsibility and control of the superior. And 5, the superior failed to take all necessary and reasonable measures within his or her power to prevent or repress their commission or to submit the matter to the competent authorities for investigation and prosecution.
3. The defendants. No distinction has been made based on official capacity. In particular, official capacity as a head of state or government, a member of a government or parliament, an elected representative, or a government official shall not exempt a person from criminal responsibility. United Nations personnel who are or were directly involved in launching assaults against innocent Haitian civilians and unarmed persons taking no active part in hostilities, including United Nations personnel causing, condoning, or failing to prevent such violence in Haiti before and during occupation, including Lieutenant Colonel Carlos Perez Aquino, Battalion Commander of United Nations Forces in Gonaive, Argentina. Superintendent David Charles Beer, former Commissioner of the United Nations Civil Police Force, Canada. Jean-Marie Guéhenno, Under-Secretary General for Peacekeeping Operations. Officer René Leclerc, United Nations Civil Police, Canada. Major General Edgardo Lugani, Deputy Commander of the United Nations Forces. Colonel Jacques Moreau, former Commander, Task Force Port-au-Prince and Chief of Staff of MUNISTA, Canada. Staff Sergeant R. Graham Muir, United Nations Civilian Police Commissioner, Canada. Lieutenant General Augusto Heleno Ribeiro Pereira, United Nations Force Commander, Brazil. Juan Gabriel Valdez, Special Representative of the Secretary General, Chile. Gregoire Verdon, Chief of the United Nations Operations Forces, and others still to be named, including those acting as agents for and under the direction of any United Nations personnel.
2. U.S. military personnel who are or were directly involved in launching assaults against innocent Haitian civilians and unarmed persons taking no part in the hostilities, including personnel of the U.S. government causing, condoning, or failing to prevent such violence in Haiti before and during occupation, including Brigadier General Ronald Coleman, and others to be named, including those acting as agents for and under the direction of any U.S. personnel. 3. Canadian military personnel who are or were directly involved in launching assaults against innocent Haitian civilians and unarmed persons taking no active part in the hostilities, including Canadian personnel causing, condoning, or failing to prevent such violence in Haiti before and during occupation, including Major Mike Collins, Chief of Staff of the UN Mission, Colonel Barry J. MacLeod, former Chief of Staff of the UN Mission, and others still to be named, including those acting as agents for and under the direction of any Canadian personnel.
4. French personnel still to be named who are or were directly involved in launching assaults against innocent Haitian civilians and unarmed persons taking no active part in hostilities, including French personnel causing, condoning, or failing to prevent such violence in Haiti before and during occupation, including those acting as agents for and under the direction of any French personnel.
Members and former members of the Police Nationale d'Haïti, PNH, who are or were directly involved in launching assaults against innocent Haitian civilians and unarmed persons taking no active part in the hostilities, as well as ordering and carrying out violent attacks against peaceful assemblies, causing, condoning, or failing to prevent violence in Haiti before and during occupation, including Mario Andresal, Director General, Police Nationale d'Haïti, Leon Charles, former Director General, Police Nationale d'Haïti, and others still to be named, including those acting as agents for and under the direction of any PNH personnel.
Members and former members of the former quote-unquote rebel force who are or were directly involved in launching assaults against Haitian police officers, against innocent Haitian civilians, and against unarmed persons taking no active part in the hostilities, as well as disposing of bodies in mass graves on land and at sea, and causing or condoning violence in Haiti, including Paul Arcelin, political lieutenant to Guy Philippe and fundraiser for the Group of 184, Jean-Pierre Baptiste, also known as Jean Tatoun, a FRAP leader, Inspector Berthany Basile, former Delma police deputy, Louis Jodel Chamblin, Front for the Advancement and Progress of Haiti, FRAP, Winter Etienne, Cannibal Army Street Gang, Guy Philippe, rebel leader and former police chief, and others still to be named, including those acting as agents for and under the directions, supervision, or control of any quote-unquote rebel force personnel.
4. Killing and injuring a defenseless population throughout Haiti. Beginning in February 2004 and continuing until the date of this indictment, forces of the United Nations, United States, Canada, and France have launched attacks against the innocent civilian population of Haiti and many unarmed persons taking no active part in any hostility. Attacks have occurred in a widespread and systematic manner throughout the capital and elsewhere in the country. These attacks have resulted in the death of numerous men, women, children, and infants. Included among the incidents are mass killings. Including among the incidents of mass killings are the following.
On or about March 12, 2004, U.S. Marines admittedly fired upon and killed at least 2 Haitian civilians in a nighttime raid in Bel Air. As many as 70 people were slain during the events that evening, which have been described as the Bel Air Massacre.
5 young men of La Saline, ranging from age 17 to 24, were arrested by the police on March 20th, 2004. Their bodies found dead the next day, discarded in different areas of the capital after having been brutally executed.
3. On Haitian Flag Day, May 18, 2004, 9 unarmed civilians, both demonstrators and bystanders, were killed by members of the PNH following a peaceful demonstration for the return of the constitutional government.
On September 30th, 2004, PNH officers shot at unarmed demonstrators who were marching for the return of constitutional government. On the same day, the demonstrators from Cité Soleil, who were trying to meet up with the larger group, were shot at by armed gangs.
On the afternoon of October 26, 2004, masked men traveling in vehicles bearing police license plate and dressed in the black uniforms of the PNH riot police executed 13 people from the Rue Estimée quarter in the Fort National near Bel Air. Some of the victims were killed in the slums, while others were driven to and executed at Titaien, a desolate dumping ground just north of the capital. 3 of the victims were young women.
6. 4 youth were found executed on Rue Péan in the Bel Air neighborhood on October 27, 2004. 2 of the victims had their hands tied. 1 of the victims was shirtless. 1 victim told a New York Times reporter that 6 police cars with about 15 officers took the victims out of cars and put them on the ground before shooting them in the head.
Seven. At least 10 prisoners at the National Penitentiary were killed on December 1st, 2004 by PNH officers and prison guards.
8. On January 14, 2005, the PNH carried out an operation in Village de Dieu, killing at least 7 persons, including a 16-year-old student and a journalist, Abdias Jean.
9. During street demonstrations on February 28, 2005 and April 27, 2005, PNH officers, along with civilian attachés acting under their direction and control, shot and killed at least 7 armed demonstrators as United Nations troops were observing. Police officers and attachés wearing riot gear and ski masks opened fire against peaceful demonstrators near the United Nations mission headquarters in Bourbon-Port-au-Prince.
10. The PNH moved against Bel Air residents on June 17, 2005, killing at least 10 people, including a teenager and an infant.
11. UN forces carried out a large military operation in Bel Air on June 29, 2005. Residents witnessed UN forces shooting and killing unarmed bystanders.
12. In the pre-dawn hours of July 6, 2005, about 1,400 heavily armed United Nations peacekeepers marched into a Haitian slum to raid the home of Emmanuel Dred Wilmé, a popular organization leader who had been demanding the return to power of President Jean-Bertrand Aristide. At least 8 civilians were killed and 26 others were wounded by United Nations military forces. United Nations forces did not treat any of the injured or even investigate whether civilians had been caught in the crossfire.
13. On August 10, 2005, masked PNH officers accompanied by police attachés shot and stabbed at least 5 people, including a 17-year-old girl in the Bel Air neighborhood of Port-au-Prince.
14. During a USAID-sponsored Play for Peace soccer match on August 20, 2005 at L'Église Sainte-Bernadette, L'École Rosemère, a school-church complex in the Port-au-Prince neighborhood of Marchesson, several PNH officers led by the PNH's Judicial Police Unit and accompanied by civilians armed with machetes encircled the stadium perimeter and entered the field area, ordering people to lie down on the ground. Police then fired wantonly into the crowd of over 5,000, killing several individuals in the main area. Others were shot attempting to escape over the walls of the stadium. Outside the stadium, more police officers and civilians armed with machetes hacked to death or hacked and then shot other spectators.
On August 2015, on August 21, 2005, police trucks with several officers in black and camouflage uniforms wearing hoods arrived in Grand Ravine, accompanied by approximately 7 civilians armed with machetes. The machete-wielding civilians, some of whom were recognized by witnesses as participants in the August 20th soccer match massacre, went from home to home identifying individuals and houses of suspected Lavalas supporters. These homes were then ignited. As occupants fled or were dragged from their burning homes, some were shot. Others were hacked to death or severely wounded with machetes. At least 5 or 6 young men are believed to have been killed.
The grave crimes described above threaten the peace, security, and well-being of the entire world. Political and social turmoil have allowed the perpetrators of these crimes to go unpunished. The International Tribunal on Haiti seeks to move Haiti away from her current despair by breaking the cycle of impunity which has gripped her past. Putting an end to impunity will promote lasting respect for the enforcement of international justice. Putting an end to impunity will also contribute to the prevention of such crimes. Justice for those responsible for the horrific tragedies outlined above is necessary to create the peaceful future grounded on the strength of the rule of law, the supremacy of human rights, and the belief in the sacredness of humanity that the Haitian people deserve.
5. Scope of the inquiry. The prosecutors request that, to the extent additional evidence is required, the presiding judges constitute a formal commission of inquiry directed to investigate the allegations presented here.
2. The Commission of Inquiry will focus on criminal conduct and other wrongful acts committed against Haitians in Haiti. Because international law must be applied uniformly, the Commission of Inquiry should seek and accept evidence of criminal acts by any person or government related to the conflict.
3. Comprehensive efforts to gather and evaluate evidence, objectively judge all the conduct that constitutes crimes against peace and crimes against humanity, and to present these facts for judgment to the Court of World Opinion, requires that the Commission of Inquiry be directed to focus on those individuals who have committed and are actually committing crimes. The Commission of Inquiry's focus on individual criminal acts and actors is important, proper, and the only way to bring the whole truth, a balanced perspective, and impartiality in application of legal process to this great human tragedy. This was submitted the 19th day of September 2005 by Desiree Wayne, prosecutor. Your Honors, that concludes the presentation of the formal indictment. We've also prepared and attached to the indictment an exhibit to provide some background information for the court and the jury on the circumstances and situation that brings us here. We'd like to be able to present that formally to the court at this time as well.
So, Chief Prosecutor, you are going to present the background, which is part of the exhibit.
Yes, Your Honor. If it please the court, Your Honor, we present an edited version for the purposes of this evening's presentation. International Tribunal on Haiti exhibit. The background. Since the decisive re-election of Jean-Bertrand Aristide by over 70% of the vote and the overwhelming victory of the Lavalas Party in the Parliament in 2000, the United States, France, and Canada have engaged in a course of conduct intended to destroy the elected government of Haiti. Those specifically prohibited by the Charter of the Organization of American States, this course of conduct included the use of coercive measures of both an economic and a political character in order to force Haiti's sovereign will.
Seizing upon the excuse offered by opposition criticism of the 2000 election, the United States orchestrated a suspension of international development assistance aid, which amounted to a coercive economic measure designed to force Haiti's sovereign will. In some cases, as with loans from the Inter-American Development Bank, the U.S. illegally blocked assistance that had already been approved. The small amounts of aid that have been doled out have been conditioned on adoption of neoliberal economic measures such as cutting education spending and ending fuel subsidies. Haiti remains divided between two groups. There are large numbers of desperately poor farmers and urban slum dwellers who, for the most part, make up Aristide's political supporters. In contrast, is the small class of elite who run export-import businesses in light industry and who, for the most part, support the various opposition groups. The imposed economic measures supported by the elite were an anathema to the Aristide supporters. His apparent reluctant acquiescence to them has alienated many of his traditional supporters.
Use of coercive political measures to force Haiti's sovereign will can be traced to January 2003, a year before the February 24th coup. At what became termed the Ottawa Initiative on Haiti, the then Canadian Secretary of State for Latin America, Africa, and the French-speaking world, Denis Paradis, met with French and U.S. State Department officials and others to discuss the future of Haiti. At the end of the three-day meeting, without any representative from Haiti, there was a consensus that, quote, Aristide must go. According to media reports, the meeting then progressed to planning how to overthrow the elected government of Haiti and remove its elected president.
The United States has also implemented a political aid campaign, the goal of which was to use coercive measures of a political nature to undermine the elected government. Under the guise of promoting democracy, the International Foundation of Electoral Systems, IFES, a contractor of the U.S. Agency for International Development, created and actively supported organizations such as Fédération des étudiants universitaires d'Haïti, which were designed to subvert the democratically elected government of Jean-Bertrand Aristide. Such organizations have furthered the efforts of the U.S. to implant its own institutions and beliefs among Haitians. IFES shares leadership with the National Endowment for Democracy, which, through its recipient organizations, the National Democratic Institute for International Affairs and the International Republican Institute, has made it a practice to inject soft money into the domestic election of foreign countries, usually in favor of those parties supporting U.S. policies.
Second segment, the current crisis. 1. The United States and the Dominican Republic, in violation of principle of sovereignty in the Organization of American States Charter and the United Nations Conventions, motivated, trained, and funded arms of paramilitary rebels, quote unquote, based in the Dominican Republic. A 600-member paramilitary army of Haitians based in the Dominican Republic, with the authorization of that country's president, Hipólito Mejia, was funded and trained by the United States government. The funds, totaling $1.2 million, were directed through the International Republican Institute on the pretext of encouraging democracy in Haiti. The training provided by members of the United States Special Forces took place in the Dominican Republic on property owned by the Dominican government. These quote-unquote rebels entered Haiti, attacked Haitian governmental institutions, and created a pretext for the eventual removal of President Aristide. The Dominican Republic, a party to the Organization of American States Charter, did thus, directly or indirectly, support a military occupation and other measures of force against Haiti by harboring this armed group, which, after repeatedly attacking Haiti's democratic government, eventually overthrew the elected government of Haiti.
Chief Press Secretary, I think we're running behind, and I would suggest that we put this exhibit into the records and we proceed with witnesses.
Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to ask that the exhibit be included among the record, along with the indictment, and that copies be provided for the jurors. We have some available if the bailiff could do that.
We'll proceed with the witnesses, and we'll ask the bailiff to swear them in. I understand we have two different kind of witnesses.
There will be both eyewitnesses, people who conducted investigations themselves or witnessed themselves human rights violations, and there will also be expert witnesses who, on the basis of their research, have become experts on a particular field and will provide that expertise to the court.
Your Honor, would the court indulge me a few moments to make a brief statement before we begin with our witnesses? I'd like to let the jury know, and those who will watch this later, and those who are watching this now, to know that we're here in Washington doing this. We're making this evidence available out to the public here because we cannot do it in Port-au-Prince. The perpetrators of the violence control the government, control the police, and control the judiciary. We're here to let everyone know about the victims that are in Port-au-Prince. But if you are in Port-au-Prince and you become a victim of one of these crimes, you cannot complain to the police who are the perpetrators. You cannot complain to the judiciary who supervise the police who are the perpetrators. And you cannot complain to the United Nations who supervise the police, who train the police, and who themselves are often perpetrators of these offenses. We're here in Washington because so many people are in fear of their lives for being attacked by mass police officers if we were to stand up and ask for the accountability of these people in Port-au-Prince. The prosecution will call as its first witness Jeb Sprague.
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Mr. Sprague, will you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury your full name?
Yeah, my full name is Jeb Harrison Sprague.
And what do you do for a living?
I am an independent journalist and a graduate student at California State University of Long Beach.